Best in Blue.
Connecting you, the listener, to the everyday inner workings of the Memphis Police Department.
Best in Blue on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
Welcome back to the Best in Blue right here on the KUDZUKIAN Network. I am DC, your host of the show. And you know what? We're excited about this brand new season of the Best in Blue. And you know something? On today's show, we've got the one and only Sergeant Craig Littles, who's assigned to the COP unit, the Community-Oriented Policing Unit. And his responsibility is PAL, Police Activities League. And that young man does wonderful work in our community, working with our youth and bringing people together, bringing the business community together, bringing parents together, bringing volunteers together, and bringing all of these services to our young people as they grow and they go into our society right here in the city of Memphis. So stick around. Don't go anywhere. Because Sergeant Craig Littles, he's going to bring it, the latest and the greatest on how you as parents, as volunteers, as business leaders, as donors can be a part of PAL, Police Activities League, right here on the Best in Blue on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
Best in Blue. Best in Blue.
That means we go to the schools, we go to the churches, we do all types of programs to try to build the relationship between law enforcement and the community.
Best in Blue on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
KUDZUKIAN.
Welcome back to another wonderful show of the Best in Blue right here on the KUDZUKIAN Network. I am DC, your host, and on today's program, we've got one and only Sergeant Craig Littles, who happens to be with the COP unit, but part of his assignment is he's working with a group called PAL. Sergeant Littles, welcome back to Best in Blue, sir. How are you?
Absolutely wonderful. Glad to be here, DC.
Great, man. I want to get right into this thing because it's such an important part of, I think, what not only what the police department does, but what is there's a need out there. And I tell people all the time, we have got to touch these babies. We got to touch these babies, and to see the police department wrap their arms around this community and say, hey, look, we know the benefits of working with young people. Let us do our part. So let's get into PAL, the acronym for PAL, what it is, the evolution of this project. How did it get started? And apparently you being the chief visionary officer must have been you. It has something to do with it. And let's talk about you too in all of this.
Okay. Well, I am Sergeant Craig Littles. I'm a 27-year veteran of MPD. And PAL and the evolution of PAL came about as a child growing up in several different neighborhoods from Chicago to North Memphis to Watkins and Brown to Ridgecrest Apartments. I always saw a need as a child. I needed some direction. I needed something to keep me stable and keep me focused on positive intervention. So role models in my neighborhood weren't always the best types that you want to, really want to implement yourself as being. So coaches in my neighborhood, guys that were trying to do positive things, got us involved in activities outside of the negatives. And when I grew up, I always wanted to do something different for our neighborhood. So when I got out of the Army in the military, I figured out, let's do something positive as a police officer. How can I make a difference? PAL and Police Activities League is all about cops and kids and juvenile crime prevention and exposing our youth to so many positive alternatives that we can offer in this city, in this state, and nationwide. So that's what PAL is about. It started as a youth, and me wanting to do something different. Being a youth that was a part of all the negatives, I wanted to do something different. So we implemented the PAL program. Thanks to Director Rollins and Chief Hardy for believing in the vision of PAL.
Well, and we've seen a lot of the work. We've seen the benefits of what real intervention and mentoring is.
Yes.
And it's apparent that what you all are doing is working. So who's all involved with the PAL program? Let's talk about the types of students you got, the types of kids, because this is a kid program, no doubt.
Yes.
It's a kid program. So who's all involved with this process?
Well, first of all, PAL is not just a juvenile crime prevention program. It also affords the opportunity for adults to have positive intervention in children's lives. So our officers and our adult volunteers, as well as our kids, can be exposed to so many other alternatives. So that's what PAL is. It affords the opportunity for our youth and as well as our citizens and officers to mix and mingle with positive alternatives. And we believe that if the citizens and the community and the youth see officers in a positive light with a ball in their hand or a whistle or a clipboard in the classroom mentoring, then they can learn to respect the laws that those officers have to institute every day. So that is very important for us. So PAL is not necessarily for children or youth that are troubled. It's intervention. So you have youth out there that are doing positive things.
So it's for any kid out there. Any kid that wants to get involved with local community sports or local community mentoring, PAL has a place for you. And I'm assuming you've got a bunch of kids, man.
Yes, we've grown from 500 our inception last year to over 700 this year. So we're growing really well. We've started with 1 or 2 police officers. We've extended the program. Now we have over 23 volunteer police officers now, and over 200 citizens that's volunteering for our programs. So if you remember.
Yeah, and you're listening to the Best in Blue right here on the KUDZUKIAN Network. So no, go ahead. Go back with your point.
So the point is that we've grown exponentially, and we're still growing. We've grown into Tipton County and DeSoto County as well.
Wait a minute now. Tipton and DeSoto County?
Yes. DeSoto.
Wow, man. So so have you found out in the work that you've been doing, and you've been doing this quite longer than just the year or two that the program has been really instituted, but you've been doing work like this in the Tresvant community as well, right? Fraser Raleigh community for some time, right?
1991. I implemented a sports program at Tresvant High School for youth, and it evolved, and that's part of the evolution, turning sports into positive intervention and exposing our youth to so many alternatives. So that's where the inception came from. The vision grew from there. As an officer, I had the opportunity not just to always discipline kids or arrest children or make a difference in a different light. I had the opportunity while you have these youth, you can mold them in several different ways, and we choose to mold them in positive intervention and allow them to understand the officer from a different standpoint.
Do you find this to be a part of your calling? You said you got 27 years in with the department, so you're a young guy. You've done some work in the military. There's no doubt that at any given time you can say, "Look, I want to hang up the badge and go out and just kind of do my own thing." But you find this as a calling right now. The piece of not only being a police officer, but also taking that skill as a police officer and applying it to what you're doing now with PAL.
Well, yeah, they say that when you find something you love to do, it's not work anymore. This has been my calling since day one, 91 and beyond as a youth. I always needed that intervention myself. So being able to work with men and women as a youngster, they guided me in a lot of different positive ways. So this is a calling for me. And they say when you find your mission, you know it when it happens. And I'm excited to come to work every day.
And so I want to circle back because MPD's role with regard to PAL is it provides an opportunity for those officers who'd like to give back to volunteer. And this is, I'm assuming, off the clock, or maybe there may be some times where on the clock, an officer, if he's got some time, he can go by and check on a kid. Is it something like this?
Exactly. For instance, Range Station, Officer Bennett, she has done a tremendous job in building her programs at her Range Station PAL program. She extended her program from just sports all the way into after-school programs. She does mentoring there in her neighborhood and with kids. So she uses that platform. And what I found is that it's so many police officers that are out here now, sheriff and MPD, law enforcement, first responders, that have the same vision in mind but never had a platform. PAL and Director Rollins have provided a platform for officers such as myself to be able to invoke so many different things outside of the day-to-day routine.
And you said that they have a platform, and I think what you're saying is spot on. If there's some time that you got that you want to give back, and who better to see what's going on in these local communities, these neighborhoods, than the police officer, right?
Exactly right.
I mean, you see it every day.
Exactly right.
You see it every day and every night. And getting the opportunity to say, hey, you know what? I see a need, and then I know how I can channel versus United Way. I'm going to give some dollars to United Way, but I can also give some time and some dollars to a program like PAL.
Exactly. We're in, our children are in need of time, talent, and treasure. And I say that because that's what I call adults that give their time or their energies to what we're trying to build here. And that time, talent goes further than any money could ever be provided to us.
I like that. Time, talent, and treasure. Hold that thought right there. We'll be right back here on the Best in Blue with our very own Sergeant Craig Littles, right here on the Best in Blue on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
Best in Blue.
Riffin' on jazz.
When two friends get together to kick it
about jazz, it's called Riffin' on Jazz.
Catch us riffing on jazz every week right here on your favorite broadcast or podcast platforms.
Riffin' on jazz on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
We're back right here on the Best in Blue on the KUDZUKIAN Network. I am DC, your host, sitting in with one of our reoccurring guests. We're going to make this guy a guest host on this program. That he is the one and only Sergeant Craig Littles. Well, man, hey, glad to have you here again today, man. I want to make sure I let you know that we're glad to have you here. I know you got 27 years with the department. You've done a lot. You've been in a lot of places. On that department.
Yes.
Seen a lot of stuff, hadn't you?
Yes, and a lot of places I've been on the department has gotten me ready for the PAL program holistically. Wow. Yeah, so I've been able to use the platform to grow as a person myself and be able to give back to our community from a police officer standpoint.
Police Activities League. Let's talk about some specifics in terms of, I'm a parent out there, and I know that there's a PAL program, the umbrella out there, but there's several things you all do. You don't just do sports. We were just talking a little bit offline. So you guys do a lot of stuff. Let's talk about PAL. Let's talk about the intricacies of PAL and what you all actually do on a day-to-day basis with the program.
Well, our PAL programs have grown substantially since we saw you last year and we spoke. What we try to do is focus on the needs of our community versus just throwing programs out there because other people are doing them. Our programs are specifically designed to meet the needs of our communities and our youth on their level. We've grown, and we just had an opening August 1st for our first full after-school program, servicing over 400 youth in our programs. We have programs outside of the sports mentoring piece. We have a mentoring program that focuses on iReady, Achieve 3000, Smart Ends, things of that nature. We also have our discovery program, anything outside of the norm, such as science, technology, engineering, math.
Kind of like STEM, like a STEM program, so
exactly.
to speak. Life
skills, arts and crafts, field trips. We also have an intervention model now that focus on anger management and conflict resolution. We partner with the mayor's office in our SAD program, Students Against Destructive Decisions, as well as their MAPS program with Mayor Strickland and Ike Griffith to do different outings and different intervention programs with our older.
And Ike, I think Ike's director of youth services for the city. I want to make sure I put a note there. And they're doing a lot of wonderful work over there with youth services as well. So,
exactly. And
so, man, so what you all have done basically is tied this whole neat package in a bow. So it seems like, and your ages are 5 to 18, is that right?
5 to 18, yes, sir.
5 to 18. And we have to, and I'm going to ask you your opinion on this, Sergeant. Typically a lot of the mentoring programs are running from anywhere from 10 on up to 18, but if we don't drop down and get to these little babies at 5 and 6, I tell people out there, they can go to the bathroom by themselves. We need to be trying to get with them and their parents or their guardians and say, hey, look, what can we do to help you develop this young man or this young lady to become the person that they need to be in order to make it and progress in this world? Do you agree with that? Dropping that age down, I think 5 is a great number.
Yeah, and again, everything we do is specifically designed. We wanted to catch the kids as early as we could to offer our programs, because the sooner you reach them, the sooner and more time you have to develop their mindset to a positive alternative. So that's why we chose the 5-year-old age group up to 18. To us, that's the whole child, girls and boys.
Wow. You're listening to the Best in Blue right here on the KUDZUKIAN Network. Now, but you all started it almost as just a sports piece, right? Isn't that how it kind of developed, or as you said, it evolved into this huge catch-all now? But I want to go back to the sports piece, because in our district in Memphis and Shelby County, especially in the Shelby County school system, there's not a lot of opportunities for young children below the middle school age to even participate in local sports sponsored by the school.
Exactly right.
And so you guys become a piece of that puzzle that's been missing in the community with these officers and with these other volunteers that say, look, we can provide a peewee football and maybe a T-ball or something like that. Is that correct?
Exactly right. What we try to do is, it's a lot of football teams out here, a lot of basketball teams, things of that nature. But we want to be different. We want to have an opportunity for our parents to see us in a different light. Or as you notice, the Cops and Kids piece, that is different. it's not a lot of teams or organizations out there can claim cops and kids and communities as their mission.
No. What cops and kids? Explain a little bit about what cops and kids are.
So cops and kids and communities is one of our taglines. So we want to evolve and bring together the cops, law enforcement, the youth 5 to 18, as well as the community. And the community consists of adults, volunteers, businesses, corporations, all coming together for the purpose of benefiting our youth.
Wow, that's amazing. Cops and kids. And let's get into this intervention piece. Now, I like what you said about the conflict resolution and the anger management piece, because a lot of times we get youngsters that come to us, and I'm sure you guys see it all the time in the work that you do. Some have some issues that are going on at the home.
Yes,
and it gets into the school, and then it just mushrooms, right?
Exactly.
And now you have what the system calls a troubled child.
Yes,
but you still see this child. They come to your program in the afternoon, and they're all fun and games. How do you all help mitigate that? Can you also be considered a mentor with the school system? Do you work with them somewhat?
We definitely do, and I'm glad you asked that question. Shepherd County Schools came out with a great concept of intervention where they partner with nonprofits in the community, and those nonprofits assist in intervention inside of each school that they're assigned. We have 5 schools on our umbrella in the intervention piece, which is middle and high schools, and I thought that our mission fit what Shelby County Schools was doing, and so far it's been the most amazing endeavor one of the amazing endeavors we've experienced, being able to go into the schools and be that intervention model for the youth versus the principals, being able to have an outlet for the youth versus suspensions or arresting. The intervention model is there now to serve as a caveat or a cushion before that happens.
And that's amazing because, you know, the school's got all the kids.
Yes.
So I mean, I don't want to call it a petri dish, but it is where your work begins, you know,
Yes.
and that partnership with the district and what you're trying to do. Man, that's wonderful.
Yes.
I mean, y'all maintain that on an annual basis. I'm sure this we're talking across, but we're talking to the board of commissioners, we're talking to the superintendent and those folks who are in those roles that work in terms of intervention with kids. That's what you guys are doing.
Yeah, Shelby County Schools came up with the plan, and we felt that we could fit that model and extend our service into the school. So we are not just the only nonprofit. There's several other nonprofits that service the schools in their capacity, and we were just blessed to be a part of it.
And you told me before, and I want to make sure I get this number right. We got 23 officers right now that are volunteering on a pretty good basis
Yes.
to assist this program.
Yes.
And so now, parents, the parental involvement piece to this thing, does that come along as well too?
Yeah, so each program in each precinct has an option to build a booster club, which consists of other officers, positive role models, citizens, parents, whatever they need, and whatever their needs are in the service to kids in other after-school programs, such as what MBI PAL is doing or Rain Station is doing, an after-school model.
So the stations themselves, they have a PAL, or they're an umbrella for the PAL piece, right? Oh, I see that set up now. Wow.
Exactly. So each precinct has their own PAL umbrella under the umbrella of PAL, National PAL, and they are designed to compete in the sports piece, but also give those officers that have a vision, like I had, to produce so many alternatives, such as mentoring or nutrition. Right now, we're servicing, which was a great need. We did a profile, and what are some of the things that kids need most.
Tell you what, stop right there. We're going to take one quick break. We're going to come back and pick up with that. What do kids need most, and how your officers with the Memphis Police Department are addressing some of those needs. We'll be right back here on the Best in Blue on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
Best in Blue.
Hey, I'm Williams Brack, co-host of Grind Set. The insight you gain from us and our guests will motivate you to take the leap into entrepreneurship. So stay with us. What's your grind set? And if you happen to miss some of our episodes, make sure to check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast provider.
Grind Set on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
KUDZUKIAN.
Best in Blue.
We're back with you on the Best in Blue on the KUDZUKIAN Network. I'm DC, and we're sitting here talking with Sergeant Craig Littles of the PAL program. And we were just talking about, and I cut you off real quick, Sergeant, to go to station break, but we were talking about the needs of some of these children when they come to you. What have you all found as some of the I guess the number 1, 2, or 3 needs that you've seen? And then have you been able to meet some of these issues that these children are bringing you?
We have. We did a survey with our youth and our parent group, and some of those trying to identify some of the needs of the parents and the children holistically. And outside of needing positive role models or positive police intervention, things of that nature, some of these kids, or most of them, a high percentage of them, stated that, the question was asked, well, why do you rob? Why do you steal? Why do you think the things that happen to sell drugs, whatever? And it wasn't because of the positive role models. It wasn't because of anything other than hunger. Hunger was one of the most needed things in the community. They rob to feed their family. They steal to feed their family. They do things to feed their family. So based on that need, we develop a nutrition program, and it's a free program. We feed the kids snacks, lunches, and dinners free. Right now at Trevor High School, over 200 kids eat a day before they go home.
You got to be kidding me,
yeah,
man.
So this after school program. So they eat their regular meals, but after school.
I've asked you this question before, and I've asked the director this, and I want to get your. I've asked every person that's come. Is there anything else that the community can do that will help strengthen your resolve and what you're doing through PAL? I mean, is there anything else we can do as a community to say, look, we believe in what you're doing. You're doing some work that a lot of us are not doing. What can we do? What can we do as just the average citizen out there?
Well, I'm not alone. We have so many volunteers. Sure. As I stated, we have over 200 volunteers.
But you're the chief visionary officer,
I am.
So you're responsible for selling the vision of PAL and how it works and where it's going to go and where it looks like in 10 years.
Well, honestly, to sustain our program, funding is always necessary. But I think meeting the children and the parents on their level, understanding their needs first, will get us where we're trying to go. I mean, we can throw money, we can throw programs, but if they're not working, it's not what the kids or parents say they need, and we figure out a way to present those programs at a low or free rate, then I think we're not doing them a service that we need.
Have you found out that building relationships, and I'd like to talk about this all the time, and building relationships with those parents and say, look, we're going to meet, like you said, meet you where you are, and this is what we can do. If you can do this, we are in a relationship together in terms of with this child and how we can move this child to the next level. Is relationship building a part of what you all do at PAL, the leadership at PAL and the department in terms of working with these young people?
Most definitely. That's probably one of my primary services and goals, partnershiping. And the partnerships, as we know it, not just with funders or different other things, but it's also with parents and parent groups and officers and things of that nature. And the more people we have that are partnering with us for the benefit of the children, no matter what it may be, and the parent, not just the child. The child can only do so much. The child doesn't have a driver's license. They don't have a job. They don't have money. The parent, just like the schools, we need their participation.
The parents and guardians are a key piece in the success of PAL is what I'm hearing.
Most definitely. And it's probably the most beneficial and most needed piece. And parents, if you want to know what we need, volunteers. You can volunteer to be on your team's booster club. You can volunteer to be on the fundraising group. You can volunteer to be on the board of directors or a board as a whole. You can volunteer to do a lot of services. The doggone, you can help set the field up on Saturdays wherever we play it.
Something even
cut
simple
the grass.
as that.
And you can help us that way. That will help us maintain, because officers and volunteers are going to do so much.
And you were telling me earlier that that you've spread out to Tipton County and you've spread down to DeSoto County.
Yes.
Do we have anybody that's addressing any needs over in eastern Arkansas, right there in West Memphis? Because you've seen the news like I have. We got youngsters over there just as well who are just as troubled, who could use just as much services as what looks like PAL can offer. So is there any, in terms of your vision, have you thought about going over the bridge a little bit to West Memphis? We got a new mayor over there as well, Mayor McClendon, and helping them either develop a program that looks like PAL, or possibly extending some of the services that you do all across the bridge.
Exactly. That's how Tipton and DeSoto counties got involved. The vision was to grow PAL, not just to be the leading youth organization in this city, not only in this state, but nationwide.
Wow.
So we started here in our city. Our goal was to build 9 PAL programs in this city first, which we up to 7 now. North Main and Crump Station should be catching on this year. DeSoto County jumped on the first year, and Tipton County jumped on last year. So now we want to extend services into eastern Arkansas and other areas as well.
Man, that is so important. So, and a couple of interesting stories. I'm sure you got something that's just struck me and said, you know what, this is working. businesses are coming. I'm sure they're coming and saying, "Hey, what can I do?" Have you had an opportunity to talk to a leader in the business community and say, "Look, what do you need?" Have you had that?
Yes.
And you don't have to share a name particularly, but if you want to share a story about that, we're willing to listen to that, because we want to hear about successes. We want to hear about how the business community actually partners with nonprofits as well as with our local law enforcement.
We've had several opportunities and people and businesses to approach us with opportunities to assist us in our program. And funding, of course, partnerships is great. But what PAL has not had, and as fast as we're growing, is our own office space.
Wow.
Yeah, so the Park Commission offered us a space at Ed Rice Community Center. Even though they're remodeling and looking at doing different things there, we have a satellite office next door to that. So they offered us that space to renovate that space and have an office of our own, so our parents and our kids and our officers have somewhere to meet. We can grow our programs from a space that we need, most definitely. We like a pot. Once that flower gets too big, you got to change the pot and make it and get a bigger pot. So that's where we are now. So the director has been very, very helpful, as well as Sheriff Bonner, in helping us get that organized.
So that's about collaboration.
Yes.
And collaborating with the Sheriff's Department, no doubt, they are walking hand in hand with you all on this as well, too, right?
Sheriff Bonner is wonderful in his mission and belief for what PAL is doing for this community. So is Director Rollins and Chief Hardy. So we appreciate that. Without them, I don't know where we would be. But right now, we're hoping to get that renovated. And if you want to help us with renovations or funding or furniture,
give us some phone numbers, give us some email addresses, give us anything we need, because I want to make sure our listeners know that if there's an opportunity for them to be able to give.
Yes.
And we give all year long. We give to certain things all year long, because that's what we are, a city of givers. I think Memphis was ranked 1 or 2 as one of the most giving cities in the country. I want to make sure that they know they can give to PAL. So how can they do that?
Well, you can always reach out to me, Craig Littles, Sergeant Craig Littles, at 901-240-6927. It's 901-240-6927. Or also at craig.littles at memphisshelbypal.org. Craig.littles at memphisshelbypal.org. So as we grow and we process and we're trying to get things organized, we're always looking for feedback. So on our website, memphisshelbypal.org, you can always leave information on our online site about what you think the citizens need.
Restate that email address, that website address again. One more time.
www.memphisshelbypal.org.
Wow.
Yes. So right now we're working with the mayor's office and several other businesses and officials in the community to develop our first youth development park, where our kids can have somewhere to go. Right now, the cost of trying to participate in renting space to play and participate in the after-school program is extremely expensive. So to cut our cost, we're looking at an opportunity to build our youth development park, where it would be a multi-use field where we service football, soccer, track, volleyball, outdoor events, parks, and recreation for our youth and our PAL program.
Man, you know what? You seem excited. You were excited a year ago when we talked to you. I see that same exuberance in you. I know you got 27 years under your belt. I'm hoping that in some fashion that you don't leave this program. I mean, we don't even want you to leave the police department. So stick around because the children need you. And what you're doing, man, I can tell you right now from what I've heard, you're making a difference in the life of children. And there's nothing more noble than that, making a difference in the life of children. All right?
I really appreciate that. I'm glad to be here, and I'll be back anytime you need.
I tell you what, thank you so much, Sergeant Craig Littles, for visiting with us here on the Best in Blue on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
Best in Blue.
This is Lee Recruiter with the Memphis Police Department, Officer Kevin Moore. Join the Best in Blue. Our requirements are achievable. Our standards are the highest. Our officers are the finest. We are the Best in Blue. Join MPD.com.
Best in Blue.
Well, you've heard it for yourself. PAL, Police Activities League, is, man, I tell you, it's wonderful. The work that they do on a daily basis. Sergeant Craig Littles and his team, he's a chief visionary officer, but his entire team, the board of directors of PAL, the police director, Mike Rollins, giving him the opportunity to work with our young people. Chief Mike Hardy, Deputy Chief Mike Hardy, who works directly with him in making sure that when the police are available, that they can donate time, they can volunteer hours to work with our young people, and I think that's what we need in our community. We need a lot more of volunteers to say, look, I'm willing to mentor. I'm willing to go cut the ball field, go cut the grass. Do whatever I've got to do. But we have an obligation as citizens in our city to make sure that we help these young people, because I think there's an old tale out there that says idle hands is the devil's workshop. We want to make sure that our children have so much to do and so much guidance that every opportunity they get, they make the right decision. So that's why we're here. Sergeant Craig Littles and his team, volunteers, donors, business leaders, the police director, the mayor, that's what's making this thing happen. Let's support PAL, Police Activities League, right here on the Best in Blue on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
KUDZUKIAN Network.